Good morning. My name is Ashwini. This is Guy Hunkin. We're both from the Excel team. This is a whirlwind tour of modern Excel. How many folks, I'm going to do a countdown of the versions of Excel. How many people are using Excel 2003? Yeah. There's one in the corner. 2007. 2010. All right. 2013. 2016. Most people, okay. And since 2016, subscription customers. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. There are folks from the Excel team here in the room also. If you are, please could you just raise your hand so people know. Brian, Sangeeta, and Johnny in the back. Okay, last year we started this, the first World Championship for Excel. This was we had some thrilling events, which was some gymnastics. Which gymnastics? Chart gymnastics, formula wrestling, and data relay. Yes? There were about 6,000 participants that took part, and about 100,000 people that viewed the events around the world. And there were a whole bunch of different countries that we had winners who attended our final championship. Folks from the Excel team also took part. It was quite a brain twister for most of us. But we're actually very happy that today is the day that we have the champion, the first Excel world champion with us in the back, that Gasanfar Abidi from Winnipeg. He's here. Gasanfar, we have a gift for you if you could come up. This is, I know of nobody else that deserves this shirt better. Sorry, I just dropped it. I simply excel. Awesome. This is Gasanfar.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Welcome. He's visiting us this week. The team is looking forward to seeing you.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too.
Great.
Excel's my spirit animal, and yeah, I feel I'm home here right now.
Yes, you are absolutely home. You can pull up a beer, couch, just have a seat. These guys do magic, really. I mean, we just build the software, but these guys put it to amazing use. So the rest of this session is modern Excel. And before we go into what we did, let's talk. I have 2 slides on why. We are in a very privileged place in Excel, which is that Excel is still the most widely used data tool in the world. When we look at the research across how many people use Excel, we think about 650 million people use Excel on a regular basis. And out of that, we did some research of, hey, what do they do with Excel? Because it's such a wide population. And as we program managers, we look at the future, hey, what should we design for? What is it that our customers are using? We break it down into these 3 segments. 60% are more basic users of Excel, which is you use it for list making. You do some simple aggregations, but you're day in and day out, very vanilla use of Excel. 20% do deeper analysis, which is much more than visualizations, or you do pivot tables, you use Excel for the purpose of doing analysis. And then the other 20% are people like in the back who use all the magic of Excel, all VBA, add-ins, visualizations, big data sets, everything that Excel is capable of. So across this set of people, a lot of people used to ask us, hey, how many people are doing BI with Excel? Because that's like one of the magical, it exists, but nobody talks about it. We believe between 90 and 150 million people are using Excel for doing BI tasks, which includes connecting to external data, bringing it in, doing BI, using Excel for the purpose of doing analysis with data. So building visualizations, formatting cells in a way that you use for communicating insights or for finding insights. So it's a pretty good place for Excel as a product. Now going forward, we noticed a few things were shifting from around us. The first one was most of us have new devices, which is productivity. The expectation that productivity is anywhere, that when you have your tablets or your phone with you, if you're on the bus and you just got an email with an attachment of an Excel document, you want to see it, and you want it to behave just like how the author intended it. All the formulas should work, all the charts should be exactly the same, which is just an expectation that people have today. The next one we saw was collaboration was an expectation, which is a lot of people are working with others collaboratively much more than they were ever before. So this file lock dialog, how many folks have seen this dialog in Excel before? We love and hate this dialog. This dialog is the one for people in the back that can't see it. This is the dialog if somebody else has a file open, you cannot open another Excel file at the same time, which just limits, just stops you at the starting line of nobody being able to collaborate with Excel, with documents. The third one, the rise of data analytics. This has been happening for a while. A classic example here is a customer we work with in Europe who's really confused. We met him a few years back. He's really confused and he says, I don't know what it is with managers these days. They want data to make decisions, which is just a very foreign concept to him. You used to make data based on gut. And why do you need data to make decisions? So the continuous rise of data analytics and Excel as the data tool needs to modernize to stay relevant. And finally, another expectation, thanks to the mobile devices, is this expectation that your software is continuously updating. Every month, you get new updates. You don't have to wait for 2.5 to 3 years, and the whole environment shifts from under you. So there's an expectation that, every month I'm just expecting new things to light up for me. So this is the environment in which we've been, for the past few years, we've been working to modernize Excel across its journey. So let's switch to a demo and see a co-authoring across different endpoints.
Yeah, hi. So what you see now is a projection of my mobile device, right? And so let's say that I am on my way to work and I'm viewing, I have opened a certain workbook on my mobile device and I'm looking at the figures. And there are certain numbers that look important to me and I would like to dive into these numbers once I'm back in the office. And so I just go and I highlight these cells for me. Once I arrive to the office, I open the same workbook on my desktop. This is the same workbook open in the desktop version on the left, as you can see. And I can see that the number has been highlighted for me, right? So at the same time, another person, let's say Emily, is editing this workbook in a browser, inside a browser. And let's see what happens. If I go if I switch back to a desktop version, I can see that, hey, Emily is editing the workbook together with me. I can see what she's doing. I can chat with her if I'm interested. Moreover, Emily can go and edit certain cells. Like, let's change the cell value. And you can see that on the left, I got this cell data updated for me. The charts were updated as well, which is really cool. So what did we see in this show demo? First of all, no file log dialog, right? I was able to open the same workbook from different endpoints, and other people were able to open and work on the same workbook at the same time, which is really amazing. No file locking or whatever. Multiple people can work and edit the data in the same workbook at the same time, and we have the changes synced between different endpoints and authors working on this workbook, which is amazing. So go try it yourself.
Yeah, this is, if you're a subscriber for Office, for the few people that were here, subscribers, congratulations. You have co-authoring turned on. If you're not a subscriber yet, this is one of the reasons for you to become a subscriber. Any questions, any quick questions on this one before we move on?
It's a show demo, yeah.
So co-authoring is required to be stored on OneDrive or SharePoint?
Yeah, exactly.
The question was, for co-authoring, is the file required to be stored on OneDrive or SharePoint? Yes, right now it is OneDrive or SharePoint. That's right.
So you mean like Office 365 Enterprise Edition for the entire company?
Do I mean Office 365 Enterprise Edition for the whole company? This is if you have a subscription, if you're a subscriber for Office 365, even if you're a home user, right? If you just are a subscription customer, as long as your files are stored on OneDrive or on SharePoint or OneDrive for Business, then you should be able to co-author. We do this all the time. I edit my I leave my desktop open all the time. When I used to go back home, I used to just bang my head. Oh, I forgot to close Excel down at work, but now it just works. So even I have a home edition at home, and I'm able to just edit that file. Right? And across endpoints. So sometimes I don't do this often, but sometimes when I'm at a traffic light, I edit some cells because I just remembered, hey, I need to put in some numbers for the budget. And it just works on iOS, Android, mobile, any endpoint, it just works.
And you restrict access to specific users for specific columns. For example, let's say you have your formulas and those things you want to change, and you only want to have the data values to be input by people.
Yeah, great question. The question was, can you restrict, what are the restrictions if you just want to have just a few users be able to enter values and not change anything else? This is just Excel. So all the workbook protection, everything that you have that you use to Excel just works. So if you just have those existing rules set up, Excel is just better. Yep. The other parts of this is for co-authoring. By the way, Excel runs on, we have 9 different versions of Excel, all from shared code base, whether it's running on your tablet, on your phone, on a desktop, on the Mac, on the web. All of those are concurrently, we're updating and releasing every month, right? So it's the same engine, it's the same formula language, it just works everywhere else. The only one that's coming is Mac. Mac doesn't do co-authoring right now. We're about to add that very soon. It also works if you go offline. So a lot of people, you travel here for many distances, long flights, and you were editing your Excel workbook in the flight, I'm sure. When you synced back, then all your changes would get synchronized. You would not lose your changes either. So that's a huge effort went into it just works. Yeah, so that's co-authoring across multiple endpoints.
How does it resolve conflicts if two different people have edited a cell when you're offline?
Yeah, thank you. There's a question about how do you resolve conflict if 2 people have edited your cell at the same time. Depends on what the conflict is. Sometimes the conflicts are in different regions of, if there's truly no conflict, then it just merges properly. If there is conflict, then we have some rules depending on what is the impact to the changes. For example, when you did a large data refresh, then our resolution would say that you would have the data refresh win over lightweight changes that you did. Otherwise, it's usually last editor would win. But it depends on specific sequences. Now, this is co-authoring is improving every month. So this scenario of external data refresh isn't co-authorable right now, but we're adding that in the near future. Okay, data analysis. The analysis, so other part of our research was we looked at how do people who want to do data analysis in Excel, what are the different phases they go through in Excel. And the first phase, as would be, would be obvious, is getting data. So I want to get access to any of my business data, all my relevant data. I want to clean it. I want to only clean it once so that when I hit the refresh button again, I don't have to work on this fragile cleanup thing again. Just help me just get it done once. The next one is around analysis, which is help me do analysis in Excel, help me pop insights that are in my data in Excel. The next one is visualization, help me build compelling visualizations and communicate my insights with others more effectively. Then publishing. I've built something, I want to publish it as part of, to somebody else. Give me a great seamless experience to get my content over to somebody else without necessarily having these multiple versions of Excel documents that they have to manage. And then consume, I'm on the consumer side, and all the work that we're doing with multiple endpoints that you're able to open the Excel documents just the way they are, make it easier for users to consume, for them to add comments for consumption. And this is the journey usually that we see analysts. Of course, it's not a linear journey. You don't start necessarily from one end and you go in phases. Frequently you're in visualize and you say, oh, I wonder if, and you pull in more data sets. Sometimes you pull in more data sets, you get something and then you want to publish it out as quickly to get feedback from people. So you go back and forth on this journey all the time. But this is the spine of, when we think of the analyst journey in Excel, this is roughly how we bucketize those areas. And over the last few years, Excel has modernized every single step of this journey. So for the one of us that's used to Excel 2007, there's significant changes that Excel has done over the last few years for every single step of this journey. So the rest of this session will go through each of these steps and see how things have evolved. All right, get and transform.
So we will start with the demo of the modern get and transform experience in Excel. So if you're an Office 365 subscriber, this is how the data tab of the ribbon in Excel will look like. Right, we have modernized the get data experience in Excel. You can start with importing data from several popular data sources like text, web, or table. Or if you have other sources you would like to connect to, you can select from a rich set of connectors, whether you would like to import data from file, from database, from Azure, online services like Facebook, Salesforce, and so on, or other sources like OData, ODBC, and much more. This modern get data experience in Excel is based on Power Query technology, and we will see the advantages of this Power Query technology shortly. So for this demo, let's say that the story goes like this. I'm going to vacation, and during the vacation I like diving, right? And I would like to choose the safest diving location for myself, right, with the least number of shark attacks, so I won't be eaten by a shark. So I downloaded some data on this from the web. This is data for Australia, right? And it contains just the list of locations with the number of shark attacks per year per this particular location. So what I'd like to start doing, first of all, I have like 3 countries, right? South Africa, USA, and Australia. And I would like to start and combine this data together, first of all. So I will start with get data from file, from folder. And I just go and choose the folder which contains the source files for me.
This is a very frequent scenario of files getting dumped into a folder, and you just want to read everything from the folder as one series of rows instead of having to do gyrations, loading it into different tabs and sheets, and then somehow combining them together.
Yeah.
So what he's doing is just loading all the files from a folder.
And of course, it's refreshable, as Ash said. I mean, tomorrow, if I have an additional file added to my folder, I just need to refresh the data, the connections, the queries in my workbook, and everything will, and the updated data will appear in my workbook. So I will just click OK, and I can see, hey, these are the files that appear in my folder. I would like to combine them together, and I can do it just in one click like this. Excel understands the structure of these files behind the scenes and combines the file together. This is a preview of the data, as I can see. I will click OK and go into Query Editor. And Query Editor is a really powerful tool. This is where the magic of transformation, data transformation in Excel happens. So I can easily apply a bunch of transformations in Excel, like splitting the columns, filtering the data, aggregating data, and so on and so forth, just in one click from the ribbon. I don't have to write formulas. All I do is just choose the right command from the ribbon. So in this particular example, I would like, first of all, to use the first row as headers, just in one click, right? And then let's clean the columns a little bit. My location columns contains some invalid data. So first of all, you can see it contains spaces. It contains some meaningless locations, like 1 kilometer of whatever. I don't know what it means. So I'd like to clean it. I will go to Transform, Format, Trim, and it will remove the spaces. I will filter out meaningless locations. And I will also filter out the header row for each of the files that appear in my folder. I'm done with cleaning the locations column. Let's move to number of attacks. I will select these columns. I will remove them. Let's say that I'm interested only in recent data, right? For the rest of the columns, there are nulls in my values, so I would like to replace them with zeros. Null, 0. This column, I'm done with cleaning these columns, right? This column stands for a country, but it actually contains the file name. So I would like to extract the country name out of a file name. So for this, I'm using a new feature that we recently introduced, which is called a column from examples. In this case, if I don't know the formula, if I don't know the pattern of how to extract the data, I just type some sample values like this. Australia, right? And get and transform Power technology does the magic for me by building the right extraction formula, right? So it extracts everything before this delimiter, and everything is done automatically just by providing examples. So you don't really need to know the language and write the right formula. This will be.
Yeah, for people familiar with flash fill in Excel on the grid also, we've introduced in the recent release where you can do this. The advantage of where you can type in a value and Excel detects the pattern and automatically autofills. The advantage of here is everything that guy is doing is repeatable, right? So
yeah.
The next time he hits refresh, everything just magically works.
Yeah. So I'll move this column to the beginning. I will remove that column. I don't need it anymore. Before I summarize this data with a pivot table, I need to flatten it, right? So I can't use the data of this structure in the pivot table. So I will just right-click and choose unpivot columns. So it kind of flattens the data and creates an attribute and value columns for me. This column stands for a year, and this column stands for a number of attacks. And so just take a look. This is where I started, right, with files, just with a list of files in a folder. And just in less than a minute and 10 clicks, this is where I came to, without writing even a single formula, right, which is pretty amazing in my opinion. Let's go and load this data into the workbook. I will create a connection only out of this data. This is a side pane where I can manage all the queries and connections in a centralized way, all the workbook queries and connections in a centralized way. These are auxiliary queries. I don't need them anymore. But for this, I will load this query into a pivot table. Just grab a couple of fields. Sort the locations according to number of attacks. And here we go. This is the location that I would like to dive in, right? Probably, I hope that sharks will know statistics as well and won't eat me this year. And I mean, my boss, if I don't like him, I probably can send him to this location and tell him that it's safe. Yeah. Again, if you're an Office 365 subscriber, you should be able to start working, to get this experience and start working with it.
Perfect, great, thank you, Guy. Any questions about that? The new Get and Transform? No? For folks familiar with Power BI Desktop, almost like a doppelganger, right? Because it is really the same code that's running across both in Excel and Power BI Desktop. So if you learn any of these techniques in one, you can use them in the other.
You then import your edited data into Power BI Desktop from this Excel
Yeah.
data or query.
Yeah, so the question is, can you then import from Excel into Power BI Desktop, the transform data? Absolutely. You can also, copy a whole bunch of options. You can just take this query definition. He showed the query, the side pane. You can just copy from there and paste into Power BI Desktop. It takes all that stack of transformations and pastes it. You can take the result of the Excel workbook, of the transformations in Excel workbook, and then use that as a data source also. Or when you load it into Power BI into the data model, you'll import that into Power BI Desktop also. It's huge. The reuse is significant.
When you say copy and paste the query list,
Yeah.
is it literally just highlighting each of that list and then just saying
Yeah.
Actually, that would be more work. This is just on the queries pane itself, just the query that you see. So not the individual steps. Just on the query itself, which is the result of all the work that he did, just copy that and paste it. Or between different workbooks. If you had one workbook you didn't want to touch and you wanted to reuse the same transform in a different one, you can just do that as well. Which still retains the connection to all the original data sources. So you still have all the steps, so you can go back to the first step and change it, right? So if your file is not coming from that folder, from a different folder, just edit it. If your file is coming from Access database instead of text file, just change it, right? So there's a lot of flexibility because we've encoded all of those steps, and you can edit them.
And it works both ways. If you started your work in Power BI Desktop, you can copy queries from Power BI Desktop in Excel and vice versa. So since it's based on the same technology, right? So can you use the same queries in both of the tools?
If I have like a series of CSVs, that will basically compress it all into one major data set instead of having each separate file.
Yeah, in this example, he was importing all the files from a folder, in which case if he had many CSVs, that's what he did. He's combined them all into one. You could, of course, choose to keep them separate if you wanted to also. But for his scenario, you're just picking up all the countries.
So that was basically the same data set.
The same schema. That's right. The same field. That's right. That's right.
Is there a limit on how many objects you can bring in and query together?
So the question was, is there a limit on how many objects you can bring in and query together? I'm not aware of any limit.
It basically depends on your machine. If you have a powerful machine, then it's pretty much unlimited.
Is in memory to query the content?
Both in memory and on disk, but I mean, again, if you have like a query which imports, I don't know, 1 billion of rows and you have thousands of queries, then probably if you're on a weak machine, then your machine will hang at some point, right? But if you're on a machine which is powerful enough, then basically it should work. There is no limit on the number of queries.
Okay, last question, then I'll move on.
Yeah.
If the multiple files have different data columns in it, will it do some sort of a merge, or will it just stop and say they don't match?
A good question. The question was, if the schema of this file is different, then how will it do the merge?
The answer is that you can apply specific transformations per file. So if you have like different columns, you can, with this combined experience, you can find the query. I can show it after the session how it works, but you can find a specific query which applies transformation on your source file before combining them together. And in this specific query, you can do the rename and additional adjustments that you wish.
But you do that query first to get them to align.
Exactly, and then the merge happens. This is about the combined experience, right? By the way, if you want to see more cool features about the get and transform experience, like I showed column from example, right? If you want to see more examples, much powerful examples, I'll be here after the session, and I'll also be at Ask the Expert, so you can approach and I'll show you the stuff.
Yeah, this is the Whirlwind tour. There's a bunch of stuff here.
Yeah.
Okay, next. So this is the summary. I think the only takeaway here is if you are subscription customers, and this is your default. Anytime you get external data in, this new experience is your default experience. So get used to it. Okay, next one, analytics and visualizations.
Okay. So how many of you are familiar with Power Pivot, using Power Pivot, also called data model? Oh, great, cool. So approximately half of you, which is nice. So I have some workbook here, which already contains the data model, right? So I will just go to Power Pivot tab and click Manage. And I have the Power Pivot add-in open for me. This is the management console where I manage different aspects of a data model, right? And in this data model, I have several tables. For example, this table. It's a main table which contains all the data for me. As you can see at the bottom, unfortunately, Zoom does not work. Yeah, Zoom does not work for me. I apologize for that. But you can see that this table here contains more than 5 million of rows. And this is the first advantage of Power Pivot, of the data model technology. First of all, you can work with great amounts of data, much greater than 1 million of rows, which is the current limit of rows that you can store in your worksheet, right? Also, with the Power Pivot add-in, you can, I just switched to a diagram view to show you the structure, the schema of and the tables that exist in my data model. And you can see that there are several tables here. Some of them are coming from different sources, and this is another advantage of a data model. With data model, with Power Pivot, I can bring data from different sources and combine them, and combine the data together using relationships, and we will see shortly how it works. So in this specific case, I have some sales data with a breakdown per stores, per geographical location, and per year. And let's say that I would like to do a simple analysis and show the total of sales per continent and per year. So I will start with inserting a pivot table. I just go to Insert, Pivot Table, and create a pivot table. You can see, by the way, that this pivot table was created in a classic view, right? How did it happen? This is another really useful feature that we recently released, and which allows you to customize the default layout for your pivot tables. You can do it through Excel options. In my case, I have just chosen that all my tables, that all pivot tables will be of a classic layout. So let's add a couple of columns to this pivot table. A year goes right here. Continent right here, and sales right into values. You can see that all the values are the same, and this is due to the fact that the relationships between this table and the time table and this table and the store table, the relationships are missing. But Excel is smart enough to tell you, hey, relationships are missing. Do I want to create these relationships for you automatically? So if I click on Auto Detect and give Excel a couple of moments, the relationships are being detected and created for me, right? You can see that the numbers were updated and reflect the real data. If I switch to a diagram view to take a look and observe the schema of my data model, I can see that this relationship was created and this relationship was created for me automatically, right? Which is cool. So what did we learn from this demo? I showed you a data model. I mentioned that it can work with great amounts of data. You can combine data coming from different sources and connect the tables from different sources using relationships. Another thing that's worth mentioning, I didn't show it in the demo, but there is a really powerful formula language in the data model, which is called DAX. Maybe some of you are familiar with this term. It's somewhat familiar. It looks familiar with Excel formula language, but it's much more powerful, especially when it comes to calculations like date and time-related calculations, comparison over year, and things like that. Another thing that we learned in this demo is the ability to search for columns in a pivot table, automatic creation of relationships, and also a feature that we provide that allows you to customize the default layout for the pivot tables.
Yeah, for those that are not used to new versions of Excel, the things to highlight is one pivot table across multiple tables, analysis across multiple tables, right? Folks used to have to use VLOOKUPs to denormalize across these multiple lookups table into this one giant table that they would then do analysis on top of. You don't need to do that anymore. You can just have data be in separate tables. They could be coming from different data sources. One could be coming from Oracle, another from Salesforce, another from a text file, and just you're doing analysis just fluidly across those tables, which is a huge deal compared to what we used to do before.
Mm-hmm. People don't like writing VLOOKUPs.
Within, like the auto detect, I've seen that before. You click it, and nothing happens. You have to go and manually go into the data model and start looking at what will there be. I guess really trying to see where the flow needs to go. Means it kind of let the data model overview to give you a better idea of what you need to make that change to get your algorithm to work.
Yeah. So the point was sometimes auto detection doesn't work, and you need to go through and build that relationship explicitly. Absolutely right. And the only time we build the relationship for you is when we are absolutely sure there's only one possible relationship that could be between the tables. If there are multiple alternatives, we don't select one arbitrarily for you. You need to go in and explicitly build that relationship for you.
Yeah.
For just like with Power Query or the Get and Transform, the same stack across Excel and Power BI. Again, with the data model, the same data engine that works within the context of an Excel workbook or within the context of Power BI. Right? So again, if you build all this in Excel, you can just import it directly into Power BI Desktop because it's essentially the same technology.
Sorry, given that Power BI is updated so much more frequently than Excel,
Mm-hmm.
how are you syncing, even if it's a common engine,
Mm-hmm.
Excel's not getting the updates as
Mm-hmm.
often as Power BI? Do you have a model for providing those updates to
Yeah,
Excel
great.
users?
So the question, thank you. The question was, hey, Power BI is updating more frequently than Excel, which is an incorrect statement because Excel updates every month, right? The second question was, but the data model in Power BI is revving much faster than the data model in Excel, and how are we keeping them? What is the plan for updating the data model in Excel? Great question. The data model in Excel, even though it's built on the same technology stack, it is lagging Power BI. We're working very closely with the Power BI team to make sure the data model also works for the Excel scenarios, which are all around cross-version compatibility. So imagine in Power BI, folks are very used to having the latest version, and you just update. There's no big deal. You just download the latest and you update. For Excel, given that it's the standard, enterprises run on Excel, having a version of Excel that releases, that breaks older compatibility, that you build something in a subscription version of Excel that you give over to somebody else that's running Excel 2016 and things don't work, that is just not a tenable proposition for Excel users. So what we're building right now, we're investing a lot in building the foundation for cross-version compatibility so that we can have our cake and eat it too. We can have data model that keeps updating very quickly, and when you save it and give it over to somebody else that has a different version of Excel, it's not an opaque black box where you just say, sorry, upgrade to a new version of Excel. That's what we're working on now.
And is that distributed through the fast user updates option in Excel, or?
That would be distributed through just updates to, if you're a 2016 customer, you just update it and you'll get the updates.
What's the point of using Power Pivot if you have Power BI?
Great question. So the question was, what's the point of using Power Pivot if you have Power BI? Really, it's a question of when do you use Excel and when do you use Power BI Desktop, because I wouldn't think of Power Pivot as the only feature in Excel. And that goes back to, hey, do you want all the richness of Excel? Do you want all the grid, all the formulas, integration, all the chart integration, all the cross-version compatibility, all co-authoring, all of that? If that's the center of gravity, great. Excel is a wonderful tool for you and continues to evolve. If really what you want is not a Swiss Army knife, what you want is a dedicated visual data exploration experience, where what you want to do is connect to a data source, build a model on it, build visualizations, publish them to a dashboard, and that's the streamline that you want to focus on. Great, Power BI Desktop is the tool to use. And part of what we're doing with this approach is to share as much of the technology stack as possible, so that if you learn M, if you learn DAX as a languages, if you learn the experiences of how do you work with data, in both tools you can just benefit from whichever one you want to use. So I'd come at it from really what's your center of gravity? Is grid and the data-based, the calculations your center of gravity, or is it more around visualizations? And then pick from there. Great question. Okay.
Let's move on. Yeah, let's move on. I have another demo for you. This is a report that I already prepared. It contains some slices on top, right? A pivot table and a map. This map, it's important. This is what I wanted to mention you. This map is actually a new chart that we have recently released, which allows you, it's called the map chart, obviously. It allows you to compare data and values, categories over different geographical locations. So just to show you how it works, if I click on North America, then the map focuses on North America or focuses on Europe. And so what we're doing behind the scenes, just imagine, we're scanning all the 5 million, almost 6 million of rows in the data model, sending a query to Bing, which creates the map for us, and brings the results back, and then we display the right map for you. This map chart is available for you if you're an Office 365 subscriber. We also recently released it for iOS, and it comes as a nice addition to a great line of maps that we released in Excel 2016. Right, in Excel 2016, we released a bunch of new maps for you, like
new charts.
Sorry?
New charts.
Yeah, sorry, new charts for you. Yeah, like Pareto, like waterfall chart, like histogram, and so on. And this is yet another addition to the great line of charts in Excel. Let's move on to another demo. Okay, here what I want to mention is that, hey, Excel is not just a spreadsheet tool. It's much more. It's actually a development platform for you, right? Previously, we had from our customers that they were struggling to find the right add-ins to download and enable them in Excel. And we addressed this issue. So today, if you go to Insert tab and Store, click on the Store button, then you can see the home where you can download and search for all the Office add-ins that are available. There are a lot of add-ins available for you per different categories, so you can download and use add-ins for data analytics, visualizations, financial management, and so on. In my particular case, in my particular demo, I will use an Azure machine learning add-in. So I will just go and click on Add. With Azure machine learning, if you know R or know Python, then you can create powerful and intelligence predictive models, which you can use in your organizations. Models like forecasting or customer churn reports and so on. In my particular case, in my particular example, I have a table with a huge number of Facebook comments, and I would like to analyze which comments are positive and which are negative, and doing it manually will require a lot of work for me. So instead of this, I will just use an out-of-the-box algorithm for text sentiment analysis stored on Azure ML, right? So I will just click on it, make sure that the columns are correct, click on Predict. And so what happens behind the scenes is that, hey, all the data is sent to Azure Machine Learning. The algorithm analyzes the results, returns them back to me, and Excel creates these two columns for me. And for each column, I can say, hey, this comment was positive, and that one was a negative with the score right next to it. And this is how you can create and extend your analysis with add-ins in Excel. In our particular case, Azure Machine Learning just enables the Excel users to easily call and invoke models in Excel and bring and show the results back on the worksheet.
This required an Azure account? I'm assuming credentials you already had stored?
Yeah, so the question is, does this require an Azure account? Does it have a credential already stored? There are a couple of ways. Some of them are key-based. So in the invocation, you can use a specific key. There's some also that are based on authentication as well. So you were given authorization. That's right.
If this is in a chart form or anything as a separate add-in, and you wanted to share with someone who doesn't have the add-in, is that still going to show up and work properly for them?
Yeah, so the question is, if it was, let's say we built this and we shared it with somebody else, you're absolutely right. There are two kinds of add-ins. This is a task pane add-in that he's showing, in which the results are just stored as part of the document.
Mm-hmm.
There are also the content add-ins, which are part of your document, and some of the visualization ones are part of the document. When you give the workbook over to somebody else, they'll be asked, I believe they'll be asked for authorization, whether they accept or decline, whether they want to run the code or not. If they want to run the code, then it will run for them as well.
But they don't have to download anything. It'll just be an accept or deny.
Yeah, they don't have to download anything. That's right. I'm looking at Brian because he is the one of
And the modern add-ins, by the way, they're available today on different platforms. So you can have the same add-ins on your mobile devices or on online. The same version of add-in should work everywhere based on JavaScript technology.
Different years, 2010, 2013, 2016.
Oh, yeah, there are some versions with 2016. There's some APIs that are available in the newer versions, not in the older versions. So it depends on the add-in itself. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
So just, when I look at it, say good to best is 0.877.
Mm-hmm.
Less than good, great start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great question. Great point. The observation was that, hey, when I look at the details, some of the details, I would have put one of them higher than the other. This is just a sample. The point of this demo was just to show a sample out of the box available. You can absolutely go in and tune it to your heart's content if you wanted to have whatever semantics. And one of the examples he talked about was forecasting. We have a separate session today or tomorrow on advanced forecasting using Azure ML. And even if you're not an R or a Python programmer, you can still use it for doing a whole bunch of work. You can customize it to your heart's content. The point here is the Excel user didn't have to know anything about how the model was trained. I'm just querying it by myself. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. So the question was, hey, how did you wire it up? Was it a Facebook credentials that you set up and the text API credential you set up? So essentially what he did was in a previous, sorry, Guy. There are a whole bunch of connectors. It doesn't matter if you got data from Facebook, right? So there's a Facebook connector here. It doesn't matter if you got the data from Facebook or not. However you got the data in, it's a text file, copy paste, however you got the data in. It doesn't matter if you know about text APIs. All he did was used an add-in. The add-in itself took care of all the authentication, all the credentials, all the back and forth. So as far as he is concerned, he's just an Excel user. He's using all the connectors to get data in, and is using all the magic of the rest of add-ins.
Yeah, if you want to be cool, just use the Facebook connector.
Yes, sir.
It doesn't pass any data back up to Azure in your account, does it? I mean, it's like pulling the module down to do the work. It doesn't actually suck the data back up to do the processing or whatever.
Yeah, thank you for the question. The question was, hey, does it pull the model down and run it locally, or does it move the data up to the model? In this case, the add-in implements moving it up. So it reads your content from the sheet. It sends it over to Azure ML where it does the scoring and then gets the results back. Your add-in could do whatever it wanted to. But in out of the box, this Azure ML add-in uploads the data to Azure. Right? So in the case that Guy mentioned, it runs on mobile devices, right? It just runs on, if you just open it up on iPad, the same thing would just work there, because there may not be enough horsepower on your device to be able to run it. And the seamless experience is because we're using a service in this case. Okay. Yeah, that's this way.
Let's move on.
All right, so data analysis functionality. You'll have the slides available. Here's just a summary. A data model, large tables, add-ins, blah, blah, blah. There's a whole bunch of stuff we didn't go over in this demo just because we didn't have time for it. New charts, you looked at the map chart. Guy talked about the new visualizations we've also introduced as part of Excel, and you just expect new charts would start showing up, would continue to show up ongoingly. Okay, next one, Excel and Power BI.
Yeah, so you are at the Microsoft Data Insights Summit, so you know what Power BI is. It's a powerful solution for creating and sharing dashboards within your organizations. And the issue is that sometimes, or actually often, you do work in Excel, right, to create analysis, to create pivot tables, and so on. And so we provided a really easy and smooth integration in Excel with Power BI. In this particular case, let's say that it has some sales retail analysis data for me, and I would like to upload this data into Power BI. So I can just go to File, Publish, and choose one of the options available to upload my my data into Power BI. I won't do it now. I'll just show you how it works. So I'll switch to Power BI, and you can see that here I already uploaded this workbook into Power BI. Once I click on it, it's shown to me in the Excel Online. I'm viewing this report, this workbook right now in Excel Online. It's exactly the same experience as an Excel desktop. So if I have charts, if I have formulas, if I have pivot tables or whatever in my workbook and I open it in Excel Online, I have exactly the same experience as in Excel desktop. Same for mobile, by the way. All the things in mobile will continue working because it's the same Excel engine behind the scenes, right? Once I see this report in Power BI, I can select a pivot table, for example, and pin it into my dashboard. Then go to this dashboard, and just imagine that other folks in my organization who will see this dashboard can then go and click on this pivot table that appears in my dashboard. It will be opened for them in Excel Online, and they can continue and working and analyzing this particular data in Excel Online in the experience that is already familiar for them. Another really useful feature that I want to mention is that it's called Analyze in Excel. So you often need to analyze your data in Excel because this is a tool of your choice, right? You like to work with pivot tables and other Excel analysis tools, VBA, and so on. But your data is stored on Power BI. And so we developed a feature which is called Analyze in Excel. So you just go to your report, and choose Analyze in Excel. Choose Open. And once you did it, let's wait a couple of seconds. We have a pivot table created for you shortly, right? And this pivot table actually works against the data, with the data that is stored in the Power BI service for me. So I can, for example, create a pivot table easily, grab a couple of fields like I don't know, margin. It's somewhat slow because it's running the query against the Power BI service. And here, for example, oh, sorry, fiscal year, yeah. And here we go. I have some simple table pivot for me that works against the data stored in Power BI data. Obviously, I can create additional charts and use all the analysis tools that you're familiar with, Excel, VBA, slices, and so on.
Perfect. Thank you, Guy. So just in the interest of time, because we're right at time, here's the summary of what we saw. If you don't have Excel 2016, you can also download an add-in for down-level versions of Excel called Power BI Publisher. So you can publish your content from Excel to Power BI Desktop that way, or connect to data in Power BI. Community itself, we have a website called exceluservoice.com. There are a lot of features that we've released. There are about, I think, 7 new features that we've released recently, just based solely on community feedback. They vote up for features, and we get them done. It's as simple as that. So if you have any features that you want us to do, please go to the site, upvote, and it'll be back in our backlog. It makes our jobs of reconciling all the different feedback channels quite easy, because we just look at one list, and that's a list of votes that we get. As we've been mentioning over and over, Office 365 subscribers get new value every month. There's a community site, techcommunity.microsoft.com. This is one of the largest. Excel community is one of the largest communities up on Tech Community. If you have questions, you can also go directly to Answers forum, answers.microsoft.com. We have a team blog, which is at the regular location, blogsoffice.com/Excel, where all the updates that we're doing on a month-by-month basis, we post up here. And once in a while, once a year, we do a Ask Us Anything on Reddit. So the next one will be in 2017 at some point. And we look forward to having you there as well. There are a whole bunch of sessions. This was a whirlwind tour, so we didn't get justice to go deep into any of these areas. There are a whole bunch of sessions here from other folks on the Excel team. Of course, because we share so much of the technology between Excel and Power BI, when you go to the Power BI sessions, you'll also hear stuff that you can use in Excel also. So here's just a few questions. For Q&A, we will be outside, and just in respect to the next speaker.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.